I never thought I'd be the woman telling this story. For 12 years, I believed my marriage was solid. My husband was everything I'd ever wanted. Kind, attentive, devoted. We had a beautiful son, a comfortable home, and what I thought was an honest relationship built on trust. But on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, while folding laundry, I found messages on his phone that shattered everything. He wasn't having an affair with another woman. He was involved with a man, a much younger man. And it had been going on for over a year, right under my nose. The shock paralyzed me. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I'd ever experienced. But what came next was even worse. I made the devastating decision to hide it, to protect our son, to save face with our families, to preserve the illusion of our perfect life. I lied to everyone, my parents, our friends, even myself. I convinced myself I could manage this secret, that I could hold our family together through sheer willpower and silence. But secrets have a way of destroying you from the inside. And when our 9-year-old son started asking questions I couldn't answer, when he began noticing things I thought I'd hidden, the carefully constructed walls came crashing down in the most painful way imaginable. This is my story. A story of love, betrayal, shame, and the ultimate price of living a lie. Pause, beat of silence. Before I continue, if this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt betrayed or struggled with a secret you couldn't share, please hit that like button. It helps more people find this story, people who might need to hear it, who might be going through something similar and feeling completely alone. And subscribe to this channel, because these stories, these real, raw, honest stories about the complicated reality of relationships and family, they matter. Your story matters, and you deserve to know you're not alone. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, to the day everything changed. Chapter 1. The Discovery. 3:30, March 17th. I remember the exact date because it was 3 days before our son Tommy's 9th birthday. I was planning his party, folding clothes, thinking about whether we should do a superhero theme or something more grown-up since he was getting older. David's phone was on the kitchen counter. He'd gone out for a run, something he'd been doing a lot lately. Getting in shape, he said, taking care of his health. I'd been proud of him for prioritizing wellness. The phone buzzed, once, twice, 3 times in quick succession. I glanced over and saw the preview of a message from a name I didn't recognize. Can't wait to see you tonight. Miss you already. My first thought wasn't suspicion. It was confusion. Who was this? A coworker? But the tone seemed off. Too familiar. Too intimate. I picked up the phone. My hands weren't shaking yet. I still had no idea what I was about to discover. I unlocked it with his passcode, our anniversary, how ironic, and opened the messages. What I saw made my stomach drop. Pages and pages of conversation, intimate messages, photos I won't describe in detail, but that left no doubt about the nature of this relationship. Plans to meet, expressions of longing and desire, inside jokes, pet names. My husband had a whole other life I knew nothing about. The other person was named Alex. From the profile picture, I could see he was young, very young, maybe 23, 24 at most. David was 38. I sat down at the kitchen table, still holding the phone, scrolling through months of messages. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be my husband, my David, the man who kissed me goodbye every morning and told me he loved me every night. But it was. The evidence was undeniable. I found messages from the night of our anniversary, while I'd been getting ready for our dinner, excited about the romantic evening I'd planned. He'd been texting Alex. Have to go to dinner with her. Wish I was with you instead. With her. Not even my name. Just her. I found messages from the morning of Tommy's school play. While our son was on stage, nervous and excited, looking out into the audience for his parents' approval, David had been texting Alex about meeting up later. I found messages that revealed this had been going on for 18 months, a year and a half of lies, of double life, of betrayal so complete that I couldn't begin to comprehend it. And here's what made it worse. It wasn't just physical. These weren't messages of simple attraction or lust. They were messages of emotional connection. David talked to this person about things he never talked to me about. His fears, his dreams, his struggles. He told Alex he felt trapped, that he'd made a mistake getting married, that he'd known for years he was attracted to men but had tried to suppress it, tried to be what everyone expected him to be. He talked about me like I was an obstacle, an inconvenience, the wife who didn't understand him. I had been married to this man for 12 years, and I didn't know him at all. I heard the front door open. David was back from his run, breathing hard, earbuds in, completely unaware that his entire secret had just been exposed. I stood up, phone in hand, and our eyes met. He knew immediately. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened, but no words came out. "Who is Alex?" I asked. My voice sounded strange, too calm, too quiet, like it was coming from someone else. David's face crumbled. "I can explain," he said, the most useless words in the English language. But I didn't want explanations. Not yet. I couldn't hear them. I just held up the phone and said, "Get out." He tried to talk, tried to reach for me, but I stepped back like he was radioactive, like his touch would burn me. "Our son is at my mother's house," I said. "Get out before he comes home. I need to think." David left. He grabbed some clothes, stuffed them in a bag, and walked out the door. Just like that. 12 years of marriage, and he left in under 10 minutes. I sat in the empty house and finally the tears came. Not gentle tears, violent body-shaking sobs that left me gasping for air. I cried until there was nothing left, until I was empty. And then I made the decision that would haunt me for months. I decided not to tell anyone. Chapter 2, The Silence. 12:22. Why didn't I tell anyone? Why did I choose to carry this secret alone? The reasons seemed so logical at the time. Now, looking back, I see them for what they were. Fear and shame disguised as protection. I told myself I was protecting Tommy. He was 9 years old. How do you explain to a child that his father is leaving? That his father had been living a lie? That everything he thought about his family was false? He loved his dad, worshipped him. David was his hero. How could I destroy that? I told myself I was protecting my parents. They were traditional, conservative. They loved David like a son. This would devastate them. And their health wasn't great. My father had a heart condition. The stress could literally harm them. I told myself I was protecting our reputation. We were respected in our community. David had a good job. I volunteered at Tommy's school. We attended church. We were the family people looked up to. If this got out, the scandal would be overwhelming. But if I'm brutally honest with myself now, I was protecting my own ego. I was ashamed. Not of David's sexuality, I want to be clear about that, but of being the wife who didn't know. The woman who'd been so blind, so naive, that her husband had an entire secret life for 18 months, and she noticed nothing. People would pity me. They'd whisper. They'd wonder what was wrong with me that my husband preferred men. They'd question whether I'd known all along and stayed anyway. I couldn't bear that. So I lied. When Tommy came home from my mother's house that evening, excited about his upcoming birthday party, asking where Daddy was, I smiled and said he was on a business trip. When my mother called the next day, I told her everything was fine. Great, actually. David was doing so well at work. When David texted asking if we could talk, I told him to stay away for a few days while I processed everything, but that we'd figure something out. I didn't file for divorce. I didn't tell him to never come back. I just waited. Waited for what? I'm not even sure. For a solution that didn't exist? For the situation to somehow resolve itself? For this nightmare to turn out to be a terrible dream? David came back a week later. We had a long conversation. He cried. I cried. He told me everything. He'd known he was attracted to men since he was a teenager, but he'd grown up in a religious family where that wasn't acceptable. He'd prayed about it, tried to change, convinced himself he could live a normal life if he just tried hard enough. He'd loved me when we got married. He still loved me, but not in the way a husband should love a wife. I was his best friend, his companion. But he'd never felt genuine romantic or physical attraction to women, including me. Meeting Alex had awakened something he'd been suppressing for years. For the first time in his life, he felt authentic, real, like he could finally breathe. He was sorry he'd hurt me. He never meant for this to happen. He'd tried to resist, but he couldn't live a lie anymore. I listened to all of this with a strange numbness. Part of me understood. Part of me felt compassion for the struggle he'd endured. But another part, a larger part, felt utterly betrayed. He could have told me before we got married. He could have been honest years ago. He could have ended our marriage before starting something with someone else. Instead, he'd let me build my entire life on a foundation of lies. But here's what I said. We'll figure this out. For Tommy. We can't destroy his childhood. David looked relieved. Grateful even. We made an agreement. We'd stay together, at least publicly, until Tommy was older. David would end things with Alex. We'd try to make our marriage work, or at least maintain the appearance of a marriage. I know what you're thinking. How could I possibly agree to that? How could I stay with someone who'd betrayed me so completely? I wish I could give you a logical answer, but there wasn't one. I was operating on fear, shame, and a desperate need to keep my family intact, even if that family was now built entirely on pretense. David moved back into the house. We slept in separate rooms, but Tommy didn't know that. We told him Daddy was snoring too much, and Mommy needed better sleep. He accepted this without question, because children trust their parents. To the outside world, we were still the perfect family. At church, David held my hand. At Tommy's birthday party, we smiled and laughed and cut the cake together. When neighbors asked how we were doing, I said we were blessed. Every single word was a lie, and I was dying inside. Chapter 3, The Unraveling, 22-32. Living a lie is exhausting. It takes energy to maintain a facade every moment of every day. To monitor every word, every expression, every action to ensure you don't accidentally reveal the truth. I became an actress in my own life, and I was so focused on maintaining the performance that I didn't notice what was happening to Tommy. Children notice everything. They may not understand what they're seeing, but they sense when something is wrong. They feel the tension, the distance, the falseness. Tommy started having nightmares. He'd wake up crying, unable to explain what scared him. Just bad dreams, he'd say. Monsters. He became clingy with me, but distant with David. When David tried to play with him, Tommy would make excuses. He had homework. He was tired. He wanted to watch TV. His grades started slipping. His teacher called me in for a conference. Tommy seemed distracted in class, she said. Less engaged than usual. Was everything okay at home? Everything's fine, I lied. Maybe he's just having a growth spurt. You know how kids get. The teacher looked unconvinced but didn't push. I left that meeting with a knot in my stomach, knowing my lies were now affecting my son's well-being. But I still didn't tell the truth. I couldn't. I'd gone too far down this path. Admitting everything now would mean admitting I'd been lying for months. The shame would be even worse. Meanwhile, David was struggling too. He'd promised to end things with Alex, but I could tell he hadn't. He was distant, distracted. He'd check his phone constantly, then quickly put it away when he noticed me watching. We barely spoke to each other. Our conversations were limited to logistics. Who would pick up Tommy? What we needed from the grocery store when we had parent-teacher conferences. At night, alone in my bedroom, I'd cry silently into my pillow. I'd mourn the marriage I thought I had, the life I'd believed was real, the future I'd imagined. I'd also mourn the years I was wasting. I was still young. I could start over. Find someone who actually loved me the way I deserved to be loved. Build an authentic life instead of this hollow shell. But I was paralyzed by fear and shame. What would people say? How would Tommy cope? What would I tell my family? So I did nothing. I just existed in this terrible limbo, pretending everything was fine while everything was falling apart. Then, one evening in early June, everything exploded. Tommy was supposed to be asleep. David and I were in the living room, having one of our rare conversations. More like an argument, really. I'd found evidence that he was still seeing Alex. More messages, more lies. You promised, I said, trying to keep my voice down. You said you'd end it. I tried, David said. His voice was pleading. I can't, Rachel. I can't keep pretending. This is killing me. This is killing you? I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. What about me? What about our son? I never meant to hurt you. But you did. You are. Every single day you're hurting us with your selfishness. I can't change who I am. No one's asking you to change who you are. But you could have been honest. You could have... Why are you and Daddy fighting? We both froze. Tommy was standing in the doorway of the living room in his pajamas, tears streaming down his face. Tommy, honey, I started, my voice immediately softening. We're not fighting. We're just having a discussion. You're always fighting, he said. His voice was small but firm. You pretend you're not, but you are. You don't talk to each other. You don't smile anymore. Not real smiles. David and I looked at each other, horror dawning. Our 9-year-old son had seen through everything. Why don't you love each other anymore? Tommy asked. And then, the question that broke me. Is it my fault? Chapter 4. The Truth. 32 higher 42. No, baby, no. I was across the room in an instant, pulling Tommy into my arms. None of this is your fault. Not any of it. He sobbed against my chest. Then why? Why is everything different? Why does Daddy sleep in the other room? Why do you look sad all the time? I looked at David over Tommy's head. He looked stricken, tears in his own eyes. We'd caused this. Our lies, our deception, our cowardice. We'd hurt the one person we were trying to protect. Let's all sit down, I said gently. We need to talk to you. Really talk. We sat on the couch, Tommy between us, and for the first time in months, I told the truth. Not all of it. He was 9. He didn't need every detail, but the essential truth. Daddy and I are having some problems, I said carefully. Adult problems that are complicated and have nothing to do with you. We love you so much, and nothing about that will ever change. Are you getting divorced? Tommy asked bluntly. The word hung in the air. We hadn't even discussed it explicitly between ourselves. We don't know yet, I said honestly. We're trying to figure things out. Other kids' parents get divorced, Tommy said. Jake's parents did. He said it was really bad at first, but now it's okay. He has 2 houses and gets more presents. Despite everything, I almost smiled at that childlike pragmatism. If we do divorce, David said, his voice rough with emotion, it won't be because we don't love you. You'll still have both of us. Always. Do you love each other? Tommy asked. I didn't know how to answer that. Did I love David? I loved the man I thought he was, but that man had never really existed. The real David was someone I was still trying to understand. We care about each other very much, I said carefully, but sometimes people change, or sometimes people realize they aren't right for each other in the way they thought they were. And that's sad, but it doesn't mean anyone did anything wrong. Tommy was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I heard you say someone's name. Alex. Who's that? My heart stopped. How much had he heard? David and I exchanged another look. This was the moment. We could lie again, or we could finally be honest. Alex is someone Daddy has become close to, I said slowly, choosing each word carefully. Someone Daddy has feelings for, and that's one of the reasons we're having problems. Like a girlfriend? Tommy asked. I took a deep breath. Not exactly. Alex is a man. Tommy's eyes widened. He looked at David, then back at me, processing this information. So Daddy's gay? The word sounded strange coming from my 9-year-old's mouth, but kids today know these terms. They learn about different kinds of families at school. The world has changed since I was a child. I think so, yes, David said quietly. I've been figuring that out about myself, and I'm sorry I didn't figure it out before I married your mom. I'm sorry for all the confusion this has caused. Tommy was silent again. I could see him thinking, trying to understand. Jake has 2 moms, he said finally. They're married. They're really nice. That's right, I said. Love comes in different forms. But you're sad, Tommy said to me, because Daddy loves Alex instead of you. The simple, brutal truth from a child's perspective. Yes, that was exactly why I was sad. Yes, I admitted. That makes me sad. I'm sorry, Mom, Tommy said, and hugged me. And then, to my surprise, he hugged David too. I'm sorry you were sad too, Dad, that you couldn't tell anyone. Children have an incredible capacity for understanding and forgiveness that adults often lack. We sat there, the 3 of us, and for the first time in months, there were no lies between us. Just raw, painful, honest truth. Chapter 5. The Fallout. 42-52. Telling Tommy was just the beginning. Once that door was opened, we couldn't close it again. The next day, while Tommy was at school, David and I had the conversation we'd been avoiding for months. I want a divorce, I said. Not angry, just exhausted. I can't do this anymore. David nodded. He looked relieved, actually. I think that's best. For both of us. We discussed logistics. He'd move out properly this time. We'd share custody of Tommy. I'd keep the house initially. We'd figure out the finances. It was remarkably civil. No screaming. No accusations. We were both just tired of the pretense. But then came the harder conversations. I called my mother and asked her to come over. When she arrived, sensing something serious, she sat down at the kitchen table with a worried expression. "What's wrong, honey? Is someone sick?" "No, Mom, but I need to tell you something. David and I are getting divorced." Her hand flew to her chest. "What? Why? You two seemed so happy." "We were pretending," I said simply. And then I told her everything. My mother's face went through a range of expressions: shock, confusion, anger, and finally, sadness. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "Why did you go through this alone?" "I was ashamed," I admitted. "I thought you'd judge me, judge us. I thought you'd be disappointed." "Oh, sweetheart." She took my hands. "I'm disappointed you didn't trust me enough to tell me. But judge you? Never. You're my daughter. I love you no matter what." I cried then. The relief of finally being honest, of being supported rather than judged, was overwhelming. "What about Dad?" I asked. "His heart." "Your father will be fine," she said firmly. "He's tougher than you think. And he loves you. This will be hard for him to understand, but he'll support you." She was right. My father was shocked and struggled with the concept of David's sexuality. His generation didn't understand these things the same way, but his love for me and Tommy never wavered. Telling friends was harder. Some were supportive. Others pulled away, uncomfortable with the messiness of our situation. Some took David's side, saying I should be more understanding. Others took mine, saying he'd betrayed me unforgivably. The truth, as always, was more complicated than either extreme. At church, the response was mixed. Some members were compassionate. Others whispered and stared. We stopped attending after a few weeks. I couldn't bear the judgment, the barely concealed gossip. Tommy handled it better than I expected. Children are resilient. He adjusted to having two homes. He accepted that his father was different than he'd thought, but was still his father. What hurt me most was that Tommy started asking questions I'd never considered. "Did you really love Daddy when you married him?" he asked me one night. "Yes, I did." "Did he really love you?" I thought about how to answer honestly without hurting him. He loved me in his way, but not the way a husband should love a wife. He was trying to be someone he wasn't. "Do you hate him now?" "No, baby. I'm angry and hurt. But hate? No. Your father isn't a bad person. He just made some bad choices." These conversations were painful, but necessary. Tommy needed to process this too. And unlike David and me, he didn't have the option to lie about his feelings. Chapter 6. The Shame I Carried. 52 on to 60, chew. Here's what nobody tells you about being the spouse who gets left. The shame is suffocating. Rationally, I knew this wasn't about me. David's sexuality wasn't a reflection of my worth. I wasn't not woman enough or not attractive enough or any of those horrible things my brain whispered in the dark. But rationality doesn't always reach the places where shame lives. I'd lie awake at night wondering what I'd missed. Were there signs I'd ignored? Had I been willfully blind? How could I have shared a bed with this man for 12 years and not known? I felt like a fool, like everyone was looking at me and thinking, how did she not know? I went through our entire relationship in my memory, re-examining every moment through this new lens. The times he'd seemed distracted during intimacy, the occasions when he'd begged off, claiming he was too tired or stressed. The way he'd always been more interested in his appearance than I'd expected. Had these been signs? Or was I just rewriting history with the benefit of hindsight? I tortured myself with these questions. And then there was the anger. Oh, the anger was like a living thing inside me. I'd given David the best years of my life. I'd supported his career. I'd raised his child. I'd been faithful, loving, present, and he'd repaid me with lies and betrayal. He'd stolen my chance to have an authentic marriage, to be with someone who actually desired me. to build a life based on truth instead of deception. I was 36 years old, still young, people said, still time to start over. But I'd spent 12 years building what I thought was my forever, and now I had to start from scratch. The dating world had changed completely since I was last single. Everyone was online now. Apps, algorithms. It felt overwhelming and depressing. And how would I explain my situation? My ex-husband is gay. Wasn't exactly typical date conversation. Some men would be understanding. Others would see me as damaged goods, someone whose husband had chosen a man over her. The shame made me isolate myself. I stopped attending social events. I made excuses when friends invited me out. I threw myself into work and parenting, leaving no time for anything else. My mother noticed. "You're hiding again," she said one day. "Just like you hid the truth about David. You're letting shame control you." "I'm not hiding. I'm just busy. Rachel, look at me." Her voice was gentle but firm. "What happened with David isn't your fault. His choices aren't a reflection of you. You don't have to carry this shame." "Then why do I feel so humiliated?" I asked, tears spilling over. "Why do I feel like everyone's looking at me and thinking I wasn't enough?" "Because society teaches women that our worth is tied to being chosen by a man, that if a relationship fails, we must have done something wrong. But that's nonsense. David's journey has nothing to do with your value as a person." Intellectually, I knew she was right. But emotionally, I was drowning. Chapter 7. Healing and Moving Forward. 60:68 now. Healing didn't happen all at once. It was a slow, painful process with setbacks and breakthroughs. I started seeing a therapist. At first, I resisted. Therapy felt like admitting defeat, like I couldn't handle my own problems. But my therapist, Dr. Martinez, helped me understand that asking for help is actually a sign of strength, not weakness. In therapy, I learned that grief isn't just for death. I was grieving the life I thought I had, the future I'd imagined, the person I'd believed my husband to be. All of that was a real loss that deserved to be mourned. I learned that anger and compassion can coexist. I could be angry at David's choices while also understanding his struggle. I could acknowledge my hurt while also recognizing his pain. I learned that shame thrives in silence. Every time I spoke honestly about what happened, to my therapist, to supportive friends, to my support group, the shame lost a little bit of its power. And yes, I joined a support group for spouses of LGBTQ+ partners who'd come out after marriage. I was shocked to discover how many people shared my experience. I wasn't alone. I wasn't uniquely foolish or blind. This happened to thousands of people. Hearing their stories helped me process my own. Some had stayed married, finding new arrangements that worked for everyone. Others had divorced but maintained friendships with their ex-partners. Still others had cut ties completely. There was no one right way to handle this. Only what felt right for each individual situation. Slowly, I started rebuilding my sense of self. Not as David's wife, not as half of a couple, but as Rachel, a whole person, a mother, a professional, a woman with her own dreams and desires. I went back to school part-time, pursuing a degree I'd put on hold when Tommy was born. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected. I started exercising, not to change how I looked, but because it made me feel strong. I even eventually started dating. It was terrifying. The first man I went out with, I was so nervous I could barely eat dinner, but he was kind and patient. And though we didn't connect romantically, the experience showed me I could do this. Tommy adjusted too. He spent weekends with David, who'd moved in with Alex. Meeting Alex was strange for me. He was younger than I'd expected. Not quite as young as I'd feared, but still significantly younger than David. He was polite, respectful. He clearly cared about David, and he made an effort with Tommy. I hated that I didn't hate him. It would have been easier if he'd been terrible, but he wasn't. He was just a person who'd fallen in love. Tommy seemed okay with the arrangement. "Alex is cool," he told me. "He plays video games with me, and he makes really good pancakes." I smiled, even though part of me felt a pang of jealousy. But Tommy's well-being mattered more than my ego. David and I developed a functional co-parenting relationship. We weren't friends exactly. Too much hurt for that. But we were civil, cooperative. We put Tommy first. which was all that mattered. One day, about a year after our divorce was finalized, David asked if we could talk. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. "I want to apologize," he said. "Really apologize. Not for being gay. I can't apologize for who I am, but for how I handled everything, for lying to you for so long, for letting you build your life on a false foundation. That was cruel, even though I didn't mean it to be." I studied his face. He looked different now, more relaxed, more himself, I supposed. "Thank you," I said. "I appreciate that. You deserved better," he continued. "You deserved honesty from the beginning, and I'm sorry I didn't give you that." "Why didn't you?" I asked, not accusingly. I genuinely wanted to understand. He sighed. "Fear, shame. I thought if I tried hard enough, I could make myself be straight. I thought marriage and a family would fix me. And I did love you, Rachel. Just not the right way. I wish you'd trusted me enough to tell me," I said quietly. "I didn't trust myself enough," he admitted. "I couldn't accept who I was, so how could I expect you to?" We talked for over an hour. It didn't erase the hurt, but it helped. Understanding his perspective didn't excuse his actions, but it made them more comprehensible. When we parted ways, I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't realize was there. Closing. 68, Home 72. So here I am now, 2 years after that Tuesday afternoon when my world shattered. I'm not going to tell you I'm completely healed. Some wounds leave scars. I still have moments of anger, moments where I mourn what could have been, moments where I feel that old shame creeping back. But I'm building a new life, an authentic life, a life where I don't have to pretend or hide or carry secrets that poison everything they touch. I'm dating someone now, a good man who knows my whole story and doesn't judge me for it. It's still new, still uncertain, but it's real, and that's what matters. Tommy is doing well. He's 11 now, navigating middle school with the same resilience he showed during our family's dissolution. He has a relationship with both his parents. He knows he's loved. And David? He and Alex are still together. They're happy, from what I can see. David looks more at peace than I ever saw him during our marriage. Do I wish he'd figured himself out before marrying me? Of course. Do I wish I'd had those 12 years to build something real instead of something false? Absolutely. But I can't change the past. I can only move forward. The biggest lesson I learned from all of this? Shame is a prison, and truth is the key. Every day I tried to hide what was happening, I became smaller, more isolated, more trapped in a lie that was destroying me. When I finally told the truth, when I let people see the messy, painful reality, I found support I never expected. I found strength I didn't know I had. If you're going through something similar, if you're carrying a secret that's eating you alive, please hear this. You don't have to carry it alone. The shame you feel isn't yours to bear. The judgment you're afraid of? Most people will surprise you with their compassion. And your worth? Your worth has nothing to do with someone else's choices. Nothing to do with whether you were enough for your partner. Nothing to do with whether your marriage succeeded or failed. Your worth is inherent, unchangeable, yours. I'm still learning that. Some days, I believe it completely. Other days, I have to remind myself. But I'm getting there. And if I can, you can too. Thank you for listening to my story, for not judging, for seeing the complexity and the pain and the hope all tangled together. If this resonated with you, please share it. Someone out there needs to hear it. Someone is carrying the same secret, feeling the same shame, thinking they're alone. Let's break the silence together. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your truth matters, and you are so much stronger than you think.